So yesterday, the All-Star reserves for the 2025 All-Star game were announced, and James Harden ended up being one of them, which, as far as I'm concerned, was very well deserved. James Harden has been great this season with a Clippers team that didn't really have Kawhi Leonard for 90% of it. He, alongside, Zubac and Norman Powell, really helped keep the team stay afloat. But then I go on Twitter, and then I see this. And I mean, there's just so many things wrong with this tweet, and I saw a couple more like it. So we're going to get into my thoughts about the whole thing. But before we do that, what's good, guys? It's DWade7. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and you're gonna have a great weekend. I know it. So when you kind of take a step back and look at this in a vacuum, who's better all time, Dwyane Wade or James Harden? I can understand the argument to some extent. When it comes to sheer numbers, it's James Harden all day, every day. I mean, we all know how much this guy was putting up ridiculous numbers during his time in Houston, but he was also doing great with assists, leading the league a couple of times, if I remember correctly. And then, of course, the scoring, the crazy, ridiculous scoring numbers that he was putting up, like 30, 40, 50-point games. I mean, that one year, his MVP year in Houston, was absolutely insane. However, there is also other sides to James Harden's game that people don't talk about nearly as much during that time, like the flopping or the foul baiting, him constantly getting to the free throw line under any means necessary, like just finding the most ridiculous but albeit creative ways to get to the free throw line, completely taking full advantage of the NBA rules at the time to get to the line and get some free points. So yeah, on the number side of things, if we're just looking at it through the numbers, there's really no contest here. It is going to be James Harden over Dwyane Wade. But that is the beautiful thing about the NBA. That's the beautiful thing about sports in general. The numbers don't always tell the complete story. No, my friends, because you've got the eye test. You got what you were actually watching in front of you to go off of as well. And the first indicator for me that Dwyane Wade was just a better player than James Harden was on defense. Dwyane Wade was an excellent defender for a guard. I think he's like top 2 or top 3 amongst all guards in blocks. Plus, he made the all-defensive team 3 times. James Harden hasn't even sniffed 1. And also, before I forget, if we're just making this argument because of just sheer longevity, because James Harden's still an all-star at 35, whereas Dwyane Wade was basically out of the league, I'm not buying that either. Because when you look at someone like LeBron James, for example, he's better than any 40-year-old in the history of the NBA. It's not even close. But he's not the GOAT, at least for me. That's still Michael Jordan because of his peak and how great he was at his peak versus LeBron. Just because LeBron James was a better player for longer in his career doesn't make him a better player than Michael Jordan overall. For me, that's just a longevity award. So the same thing applies with James Harden. Just because he's this good at 35 years old versus DWade, that doesn't make him better. Dwyane Wade in his later years was dealing with injuries, not like James Harden. So I just want to make that clear before I continue. Now, yes, it's true. James Harden does have a league MVP where Dwyane Wade doesn't, even though there's an argument to be made that he should have won MVP at least once. But everything that I just mentioned up until this point is completely ignoring the other side to the James Harden story, the one that everyone just hates to talk about, the playoffs. And when it comes to the playoffs, this isn't even a debate. See, some people like to judge players based off of how they perform in the playoffs, in the games that matter most. And in these games, James Harden historically has shrunk. I mean, seriously, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, James Harden during the regular season, for like 99% of his career, he's awesome. He's great. He's an all-star. All that kind of stuff. He's an historic player. But when it comes to the playoffs, the dude disappears. Now, sure, at a glance, James Harden's numbers still look really good for the most part during his career in the playoffs. But when you take a closer look, or if you at least watch the games, it wasn't very pretty. And that is especially true when it came to Game 7s, where James Harden has been abysmal. On the flip side, I don't think there's really much to talk about when it comes to Dwyane Wade. I mean, if you know anything about his career, this is what the dude lives for. It's for the playoffs. Dwyane Wade carried that Miami Heat team to the championship back when it was just him and Shaq. And then, of course, when he got LeBron, they had to kind of figure it out a little bit, but they still got it done. I'm not going to make this a conversation about rings because, again, that can be a little bit arbitrary depending on who you talk to. But at the end of the day, Dwyane Wade has a lot of playoff success, whereas James Harden doesn't. He's been to the NBA Finals once in his career, and that was when he was on the Thunder. Ever since then, it's been disappointment after disappointment from James Harden in the playoffs when it matters most. Frankly speaking, it's the one thing that he's missing in his entire career because, again, he does have a legendary Hall of Fame career. But it's playoff success that's completely eluded him, and that's why I can never put him ahead of Dwyane Wade. Dwyane Wade is one of the most clutch players in the history of the league. When the game was on the line, Dwyane Wade was there. In terms of all the shooting guards in NBA history, it really just comes down to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and then Dwyane Wade is right after. And the ironic thing is, James Harden's not far behind. He's probably 4th or 5th. He is, without question, one of the greatest shooting guards to ever play the game. But I can't put him ahead of Dwyane Wade because Dwyane Wade played defense. Dwyane Wade showed up in the playoffs. Dwyane Wade was a difference maker in ways that James Harden just hasn't been. And I also have to bring up this little tidbit here. James Harden has been ditching teams for situations that he thinks is best for him ever since Houston. When he was done with Houston, he left, he forced his trade, he went to Brooklyn, forced his trade after there, went to Philly, forced his trade after there. I mean, seriously, I understand that Dwyane Wade had LeBron James in his prime when they won, those championships together. But think about the teammates that James Harden has had. He's had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving, Joel Embiid. He has Kawhi Leonard right now. At some point, when does it not fall on James Harden? So, yeah, look, congratulations to James Harden for being an all-star this year. He deserved it, but let's pump the brakes on him being better than Dwyane Wade all time. Because at the end of the day, as legendary as James Harden's career has been, he doesn't play defense and he hasn't had any success in the postseason like DWade has. But I don't know. That's just all I have to say about it. Let me know in the comments what you think. And until next time, peace.